What do you get when you put the visual aesthetic of Nier Automata, the stylish combat of Bayonetta and Devil May Cry, the platforming exploration of old school God of War and Ratchet & Clank games, and a whole helping of waifu booty cheeks, and then sprinkle a little bit of Dark Souls influence? Well, you get arguably this year's best action game and one of the most enjoyable, if counterintuitive, platinum trophies of the year. PlayStation players rejoice, for when we can't have Bayonetta 2 and 3 to keep our basement-dwelling tendencies at bay, Stellar Blade delivers in its wake. And it's even a fantastic character action game to boot. But we aren't here to talk about that. We're here to cover the journey to the Platinum Trophy. Overall, it's a very by-the-numbers list, which will require you to see all 3 of the game's endings. You'll either have to do 2 full playthroughs with 1 partial playthrough, or just 3 full straight playthroughs if you don't have PS Plus to back up your save. It's actually the ending trophies that kind of bring the enjoyment of the list down a bit for me, because it goes completely against general gaming conventions and ended up just being annoying, but we'll get to that later. As for the rest of the trophies, you have a good mix of story-related ones, and killing X amount of enemies with various skills or performing certain abilities X amount of times. And there's a good amount for collecting boxes, nanosuits, fish, and upgrading Eve. All in all, a very simple and easy to do list. There's none related to difficulty, so feel free to be like me and play it on baby mode if you want the path of least resistance. The game starts off with stakes pretty high right off the bat, and what's higher than a random planet invasion? During this invasion, several pods get sent down to the surface, with ours becoming the focal point after a few seconds. After crashing to the surface, our pod has issues opening, but never fear, for our leader Taki is here to help. Ooh, oh damn, okay. Nobody told me our commander would be such a hottie. Man, I can't wait to see. Oh, this is going to be one of those games, isn't it? After getting through the obligatory tutorial stuff, we come across our first boss fight. This game just throws you into the thick of it right off the bat. But for this fight, you'll have Taki with you, which you'll definitely be grateful for, given you'll still probably be getting used to the controls. This boss fight also gives you your first taste of the flashy spectacles that this game includes at the conclusion of boss fights. That's one thing that you won't be disappointed with while playing this. The endings to all the boss fights have pretty damn good finishes. There is a QTE you'll have to hit, but unlike something like old school God of War, where you might have to hit several in consecution, it's only the one, which is nice. After the beast goes down, we get jumped by some giant crow person hybrid, I don't even know. Despite Taki's best attempts to lure it, it still decides it wants Eve's head on a silver platter. But before it lands the blow, Taki takes one for the team and sacrifices herself for Eve, and with that, the game's opening concludes. For the rest of this video, I will be doing my best to try and avoid spoilers as much as I possibly can, but be warned that there will be some footage shown of all the boss fights. If you care about this stuff, don't say I didn't warn you. When we finally get control of Eve again, we are on our first proper planet, Eidos 7. The game is still in tutorial mode though, so before too long we come across what this game calls camps. There's 2 kinds of camps in this game. The one we stop at is a bigger one where you can upgrade Eve, buy skills, and buy other battle items like grenades or ammo. Smaller camps don't allow you to upgrade Eve or her skills, but you can buy those battle baton. But what they both do is they fully heal you and replenish your tumbler uses if you choose to rest at them. But they will also reset all the enemies in the level, a la Dark Souls. Once this camp is activated, we receive the game's first trophy, Camp Preparation. The next trophy won't be for quite some time, but in the meantime, the game gives you a good opportunity to take in the exploration, platforming, and combat, which is good because you'll be doing a lot of it. It also gives you a good chance to soak in the music that plays in the background, whether you're just jumping around or fighting this game's enemies race, Natiba. Game devs, especially Eastern game devs, listen up. Put more background music in your games. Personally, I've never been one to get too worked up about OSTs in games. I enjoy while playing them, and they definitely do help add a lot to the games, but they don't really stick with me after it's all said and done. But this game's choice of songs, while you're doing your thing, was an absolute thing of beauty, and now I need it in all of my games that are like this. Tangent aside, after entering a parking garage, we soon come across our first boss, Abaddon. And again, the bosses do such a great job at highlighting this game's strong points while also providing a challenge even on the easier difficulties. When you pull off a string of parries or dodges, it feels immensely satisfying, even if it's assisted by the game on baby mode. After I finally killed it, I got the next trophy, Abaddon. Because the game has just begun, there's no way I'm getting any of the various milestone trophies in this level, so let's just move on ahead of it. After getting a hypercell that our new buddy Adam wants, Adam, Eve, I see what you guys did there. We suddenly get ambushed by a creature named the Corruptor. This is the level's second boss. With this boss being more akin to an animal, it fights a lot differently than the last one. And with the spray attacks it uses, you can't just constantly swing at it or else the acid stuff will get you. Nevertheless, after I took it down, I got the next trophy, Corruptor. What kind of took me off guard when playing this was just how long these linear levels were. In most other games, I would have expected this level to have been done after Abaddon, Corruptor at the most. But they designed these levels to go close for 2 hours on a first playthrough, probably even longer if you do a ton of exploring. And man, oh man, is there much exploring to do. There are so many things to collect and find that it often feels like a 90s era collectathon, in addition to being an action game. And that's where the OG God of War and Ratchet vibes come in. For those of you who were around during the old school God of War games, and don't forget to take your bills for your back by the way, will remember that even though those games were extremely linear, there was a lot of off-beaten paths you could go on to get additional resources. The same thing here. If you are thorough, you'll find resource containers, fallen airborne squad members to get both HP and beta energy upgrades, boxes that contain nanosuits or other cosmetic accessories, and even soda cans, because fuck it, why not? There's a decent amount that will be fairly out in the open and not require too much running around, but there will be some that will be a bit more well hidden or won't open until you progress a side quest far enough along. So even though there are large stretches in between boss fights, you'll have plenty fun trying to get as much as you can from one story beat to the next. Speaking of story, after making our way out of a long sewer, we come to our final boss of the level, the Gigas. Or Gigas, I don't know, it doesn't matter. This is the first of what this game considers alpha Naytibas. So it is a lot more dangerous than the previous two fights. But that also means it's far more awesome than the other two previous fights. It puts up a pretty tough fight, but after an epic finale, Eve finally kills it and we get the Gigas trophy. Once defeating Gigas, we get introduced to the second main supporting character for Eve, a girl named Lily. She functions as the team's tech expert, while also being far too spunky for her own good. After rescuing her, the team goes to the last remaining refuge for humanity, the city of Zion. This area serves as the main hub of the game, but it also functions as a level in of itself, with collectibles, nanosuits, side quests, and more to find and complete. Given that the game only has a small handful of actual distinct levels, it's great that this city serves as more than just a place to upgrade Eve. And speaking of side quests, you'll want to make sure you do pretty much all of the ones that become available in Zion as the game progresses, especially the ones for Anya and Sue, and for Kaya. A lot of the missions do not become available until you do previous ones, and a handful of them even lead to bosses, which will lead to getting upgrade parts for Eve's weapon, tumbler, and more. These are needed for later trophies, so you pretty much want to aim for 100% completion on the first playthrough. You basically need to do this anyways, due to the Lily meter that you'll start to see pop up occasionally now. Yes, that is a Lily meter. It starts to fill up after entering Zion, and it increases by finding various documents in the world as well as doing larger story and side missions. You want this to be at 100% before entering a level called Spire 4, or else you'll be locked out of the best ending of the game. but since this is a 100% playthrough anyways, that shouldn't be an issue. The next level of the game is an open world level called the Wasteland. It's essentially what would happen if the Rocky Mountains suddenly had abominations running around it. The map for this area is big, and as you play it, you realize that this was the devs' way of padding the game's runtime. There's a lot of stuff tucked away all over the map. You do get a mandatory mission to repair the generator so that the camps can actually be usable, but the rest of the level is just exploration. There is a main path to go along, which will lead to the entrance of the level you actually need to get to in order to progress the plot, but you could be excused for getting a little lost tracking it down. Because a lot of trophies in this game are largely tied to finding a bunch of stuff, you will have to pretty much explore the entirety of this area. The game does its best at mixing up what you have to do in order to collect everything. There could be a long platforming section to get a can, or you have to use your gun to shoot some targets to open a box that contains a nanosuit, or you might have to fight a boss for a side mission. You don't end up having to do the exact same thing for too long, which helps freshen things up. But I can easily see people getting bored of seeing the same shade of brown for hours at a time. Unfortunately though, you won't be able to explore all of the Wasteland on your first visit. Some of the ledges you need to get to are just simply too high. And if you're thinking, a double jump would fix this problem, well, you're in luck because you do get a double jump, just not now. I have no idea why they will hide this behind an arbitrary story progression, but hey, I'm not a game dev, so what do I know? After getting to the entrance for the area you actually need to be at, you will quickly find out you can't use your gun. It's for plot reasons that I can't remember honestly, but on the plus side, it greatly helps you get the kills needed for the ranged weapon trophy. You won't get enough in this level alone, but you'll make some serious progress towards it. This area is called Altz Levoir, and it is one of 2 mini linear levels in the game, and your goal for both is to get a hypercell to continue powering up Zion. Keep on the lookout though for additional bosses and collectibles, as it does have some to find. At the end of this dungeon level, you'll find a big giant pimple, and after killing it, the trophy Altz Levoir is earned. Back in Zion, Lily will hook us up with a double jump ability. Now that we have a skill that we should have had from the start of the game, we can now fully explore the Wasteland. This is the time I took to pretty much do as much of the game as possible to that point, which was a surprisingly lot of stuff to do. So I went and found all the documents, cans, nanosuits, exospines, and anything else that was available to me. This also included going back to Eidos 7 and cleaning up anything that I wasn't able to do upon my first visit there. Even though some may consider this fairly early into the game gives you a good amount of side quests to go and take care of. Through one of them, I ended up in a boss fight against the boss I fought with Taki in the game's prologue, which is called the Brute. It was definitely a much tougher fight than the first encounter, seeing as how I was solo this time around, but after I managed to kill it, I got the trophy Brute for taking it down. And because I spent so much time in the Wasteland, which you will be spending a lot of time in the Wasteland, I was taking out a lot of enemies, which actually worked out just fine because they were just fodder for me to progress the various kill trophies the game has. While in the Wasteland, I got both Natiba Hunter for killing 100 enemies with beta skills, and Silent Executioner for killing 50 enemies with executions, aka backstabs. When I was finally done cleaning up everything I could, it was time to progress that thing called the plot that I seem to have forgotten about and make her way to a new location called Matrix 11. This subway level acts as the game's second, longer linear style level. But don't let the linearity fool you. There's plenty more collectibles and hidden things to find. And this is where the 3D platform exploration vibes come in, a la Ratchet & Clank, Sly Cooper, and even the first Jak and Daxter game. Yes, there's always a main path to follow, but there's constantly side paths to go down if you want to fully explore the areas. And speaking of Ratchet & Clank, with the last game of that series having its own open world style levels as well, I was constantly thinking that this was basically a Ratchet & Clank game. except for, you know, with the and the. If there's one thing this game is, it's repetitive. I mean consistent. The long linear levels all have 3 bosses in them. The shorter dungeon-like linear levels just have 1 boss at the end, with it being the same kind of boss. And the 2 open world areas have the mass heap of collectibles and 2 to 3 bosses in them as well, but they aren't triggered unless you have the right side quests active. And it repeats the cycle throughout the game. Linear level, open world exploration, dungeon level, and repeat. Just another way this game channels that old school game design energy. With that said, the next 3 trophies were tied to the 3 bosses in Matrix 11. The first boss was called Stalker, which had a pretty sick design. After killing it, I got the trophy Stalker. Next up was a boss called Juggernaut, which decided to ignite the entire area we were in for absolutely no reason at all. Upon its death, I got the trophy Juggernaut. And the final boss ended up being our good friend Taki from the start of the game. However, in between the time that we saw her almost die and now, she has been captured, brainwashed, and turned into an alpha nativa, so unfortunately, our girl Eve has to take out her former captain. When the admittedly pretty baller fight concluded, I got the trophy Taki. You know, for these trophy names, just gotta give it an A for trophy name originality, guys. Good job. With this level cleared up, we progress the plot a bit more, gain a new Taki mode, and get thrown into the next open world area, Dune 3. I mean, the Great Desert. Remember that thing about Shift Up being consistent? Even the open world levels aren't safe. Just like in the Wasteland, we have to fix another generator on this map as well, or else the camps will not work, just like at the Wasteland. At least the reasoning here makes more sense, but still. Speaking of the open world area, since we have the double jump, the desert is fully explorable right from the start with nothing impeding your progress here. Just like the Wasteland, there's heaps of stuff to find and enemies to kill. The bright side is that it greatly helps progress several trophies. As a matter of fact, I got several of them before continuing the main story plot. The ones I got here were Records Collector for 200 databank entries, Agile Gladiator for 300 perfect parries, Relentless Destroyer for 50 burst skill kills, Battlefield Martial Artist for 200 perfect dodges, and Box Hunter for opening 200 boxes. And a quick side note about the boxes, it seems that any kind of box will count, whether that's just a box for crafting materials, a box for ammo types, or even apparently the boxes for costumes. Apparently all of those will count towards it. The Great Desert is also where you will be able to completely wrap up the 3 big side quests for the affiliated trophies. I mentioned earlier that Anya and Sue and Kaya have side quests for you to do, which you'll need to start in Zion in order to get their trophies. But there's another character that also has a trophy tied to him, and he's found in the Wasteland. And it's this little guy, D1G-G2R, or I'm just going to call him Dig, because Digger sounds too problematic, so I'm going to call him Dig. In my opinion, this was probably the most interesting out of them all, because the idea of a robot suddenly gaining consciousness, but then immediately trying to understand the meaning of life instead of, you know, the usual world domination thing was quite amusing. All 3 of these side plots can be concluded while going through the Great Desert, and I got 4 more trophies by the end of it. The last part of Kaya's questline ends up actually in a boss battle against a new Alpha Nativa called the Behemoth. After killing it, I got the Behemoth trophy, and when I turned in this mission to Kaya, that wrapped up her questline, and I was rewarded with the Sisterly Love trophy. Next is Beep for completing Dig's questline, which, just like the robot itself, was quite amusing. And finally, Beyond Fate for wrapping up Enya and Sue's questline and getting a nice little musical number at the end of it. Not only are these needed for getting their respective trophies, but they also help with increasing the Lily meter, so you have an additional incentive for doing so. So after spending for what felt like 1,000 hours in the Great Desert, I remembered that I actually had an actual plot to progress and gained entrance into the next dungeon called the Abyss Levoir. Just like the last one, you can only use your ranged weapon here, but that actually only helps us out because it gives us more ranged weapon kills. Which is exactly what happened, as while I was going through the level, I got the trophy Cold-Blooded Sniper for getting 150 ranged kills. And I also got the Cruel Liberator trophy while I was in there for taking out 1,500 enemies in total. Just like with the last dungeon, we have to fight another giant pimple in order to get the hypercell that we're after. When I took it out, I got the trophy Abyss Levoir and more details into the overarching plot of this game. This is the point in the game where I decided to finally tackle the true menace in Stellar Blade, the fishing minigame. But not before I quickly upgraded my tumbler to max capacity and getting the perfect rechargeable tumbler trophy first. Fishing isn't just a minor distraction. It has several side quests associated to it, an entire set of fish to find, different tiers of bait, and even a nanosuit locked behind this minigame. Hold on, did you say nanosuit? Well, in that case... You son of a bitch, I'm in! Clyde in the Great Desert is your main point of contact about all things fishing, and he's also the guy who will sell you the bait and better fishing info that allows you to catch tougher fish with more ease. The minigame itself is actually pretty simple, as long as you turn off those pressure sensitive buttons in the options, and you almost always snag something when you try to fish. It's not as completely brain dead as fishing in like old school Pokemon or something, but it definitely isn't challenging by any means. As you collect more fish and fill up the compendium, some side quests will start to open up. You'll want to do these as they lead to a side quest later where you'll be able to obtain a special bait called the Fantastic Bait. The bait itself is in the Wasteland, but you can't actually open the box that it's in until you have this side quest active. But when you get it, it'll enable you to catch the 2 final legendary fish for the compendium. However, for the trophy, you only need to catch 20 fish, and after I caught my 20th fish, I got the trophy Lonely Fisherman. After that was finally done, I had completed everything that I could at that point. And this is where the game's first point of no return is at. Remember that Lily meter? Well, since I was going for 100% completion in this playthrough, I had that filled up well before I got to this point in the game. But it is extremely important that you have it filled, because when you talk to Adam to progress to the next level, Lily will interject and ask if the group can take a detour to a location called Eidos 9. You want to do this actual level because completing it gives you the option to get the hidden best ending of the game. If that meter isn't filled, you will completely skip over this level, so make sure you have that bar filled. Eidos 9, for being a full level, doesn't have anything particularly special in it, unlike a lot of the other linear levels, except you can pull off this shit. Yeah! There's more collectibles to find, but I have the trophies for almost all of the collectibles by this point in the game. But I didn't have all the combat trophies yet. I was missing the one for taking out enemies in Taki mode, so I took the time to use Taki mode pretty much every chance I had, and while I was in this level, I got my 50th kill, which got me the trophy Revenging Agent. I have one issue with Eidos 9 though. Okay, so there's water literally all around you. It's literally everywhere because this place is completely flooded. And you can jump into this water. But as soon as you do, you immediately start to die, your screen goes into a panic attack, and I'm assuming it's presumably because you're drowning, right? But why though? We've seen Eve swim like Michael Phelps this entire game and is able to literally breathe underwater. But for this water, oh no, not this water. Like, okay. The water seems a little bit aggressive, I give you that. But again, she can breathe underwater. So where exactly is the danger? I'm ranting about this because to get some of the far off items, you have to traverse this fucking water. And if you don't get to another surface in like 4 seconds, you die. It's dumb, it stinks, and I hate it. Okay, now that I'm done bitching about some water, I spoke with Lily to craft the latest nanosuits after the end of all of this hoopla. And it was here that I actually had obtained my 30th nanosuit, which granted me the trophy, Nanosuit Collector. Keep in mind though, that you may think that you have 30, but you actually don't until you actually craft them, or like until you can actually wear it, it doesn't count. So keep that in mind with this trophy. With this little detour taken care of, it was finally time to start the final linear level of the game, Spire 4. And man, this really was a final level. Just like the previous ones, it is long and linear and consisting of 3 bosses that need to be defeated. For the first boss, you actually have a shorter skirmish with it somewhat early on into the level, but it takes off before the fight ends, so you actually go quite a ways before getting the first boss trophy. But in the meantime, I continue to look for those beta and HP enhancements to get those to max. I was able to get both maxed out before even fighting this guy, which got me the perfect beta energy enhancement and perfect physical enhancement trophies. Soon after getting those maxed out, I got to take on the first boss of Spire 4, Belial, which is just all metal as hell. No, I mean literally, it's made out of metal. After using a literal hyper beam on it, I finally killed it and earned the Belial trophy. Also, I'm not sure if it's actually called Belial, but that's how I'm pronouncing it. Now, the next thing we're supposed to do is just take the elevator up to space and make our way to Mother Sphere. But of course, this is a video game, so that doesn't happen as planned. After making it up some distance, we get stopped and we have to make the rest of the way up to the next elevator on foot. Normally, this would be a problem, but now we have the opportunity to find the last remaining cans we were missing, which is exactly what I did. The last couple cans are along the way to the next elevator, and after finding the last one, I got the trophy, Can Collector. After finally making it to our destination, Eve finds herself in a pretty swanky area, if I may say so. Nice hardwood floors, soft plush furniture, creepy robot demons stalking us, good stuff really. But we unfortunately don't get to enjoy it for too long, as the creature that was stalking us reveals itself and we jump into our next boss fight, the Katakuri. And let me just say, 10 out of 10 enemy design here. And it's a pretty awesome fight, all things considered, and it has its own spinning hyper beam of its own. But its hyper beam was no match for me, as I was able to destroy it and earn the Katakuri trophy in the process. Also, I know I said that terribly and I don't care. We pretty much go from this boss straight into the final one, and goddamn, this was a doozy. The final boss is called the Demogorgon, and I don't even know how something could even manifest into this monstrosity. It's probably one of the only bosses that has clear, distinct phases to go through, which gives the fight actually a good sense of progression. After taking it out, Eve goes to get the Alpha Core from it, but there isn't one to find. That's because what we fought wasn't truly the Demogorgon. This was. The rest of the fight works more as a set piece than a fight, but shit man, this was sick as hell. After unleashing the hyper beams of all hyper beams, Eve was finally able to kill it, and I finally got the Demogorgon trophy. Despite not being able to get the Alpha Core, Eve and Lily have to still make their way back to Zion to see if things are okay, and I don't think things are okay at all. With no time to lose, Eve immediately heads out to make sure Oracle is okay. First, let me just stop at the camp first, though. I mean, hey, these trophies aren't gonna get themselves, am I right? Let me just upgrade the Blood Edge to max, and Got it. Okay, perfect. Perfect Blood Edge trophy obtained. Okay, now I'm ready. We don't find Oracle, but we do find that weird bird human hybrid thing. And wait, wait, what? This thing can talk? Wait, oh, okay. Well, if you don't learn something new every day. Eve finally gets her chance to exact revenge, and we will take it with gusto. As expected, this fight goes for a little while, and both her health and parry counters are huge. Not only that, but it is only now where the game wants to give you a brand new mechanic where bosses can unleash a one-hit kill attack on you if you don't take out these floating targets in the air in time. After exacting our revenge, come to find out, the bird thing wasn't a bird thing at all, it was just a cosplayer all along. Pokemon, is that you? After she leaves, we go and check on Oracle, who ain't looking so hot. After giving us a long info dump, Eve learns that she has to go back to the Wasteland one last time and find Adam. But before doing so, you get a chance to say goodbye to all the main people of Zion that you've helped, and even get a couple gear pieces for your trouble. This is now the second point of no return of the game. You thought there was only one? Ha, fooled you, bitch. Then we got two. You can go back to clean up anything you might have missed in all the levels of the game, except for Zion, because you got the brigade of citizens blocking your path now. I didn't personally have to do this, but the option is available for players if you happen to miss anything. What I did do though was quickly purchase the last skills I had left to get, and upon doing so, I got the Thorough Technician trophy. We have now entered the endgame, people, and with only a couple boss fights left, a couple miscellaneous trophies, and the ending trophies left to get. Once at the Wasteland, Eve and Lily start looking for Adam, but instead of that, we get some more plot info. Soon after, we come across our next boss fight, Raven. This is the same Raven that we've seen in the recordings that were found in the Levoir dungeons, and it's the same lady who came out of that bird creature thing. She discovered the secret of the Natiba and the entire conflict that Mother Sphere has with them, but instead of the truth setting her free, they gave her a one-way ticket to Crazy Town. However, she does know that Eve, for some reason, was the chosen one to end everything, and now Raven is big mad about it, and so hence, now we fighting. The music here, in my opinion, perfectly complements this fight, and really makes you feel the anger that these two have towards one another, and I was all here for it. Like all the other boss fights, it is epic, and it ends pretty damn spectacularly. After leaving Raven to watch Eve leave like a total badass, the fight ends, and I get the Raven trophy. After opening the door with the Alpha Key or whatever it's called, we gain access to the final area of the game. There are no enemies here, but it does have these weird pods that occasionally have an enemy that will burst out of one of them, but they quickly die afterwards. It turns out that this place is where the Natiba are being born? Question mark? I don't even know. It creates a good visual, honestly, but alas, Eve must progress onwards. Before long, we come across the final campsite of the game. There is a trophy for activating all of the camps in the game across all of the levels. I recommend looking up a guide to make sure you don't miss the one specifically in the Wasteland and Great Desert, and if, like me, this was the final one, you will, like me, get the trophy Meticulous Explorer for activating all of them. Pause. At this point, I made a backup save, which you should do too, unless you want to beat this game 3 times. There are 3 different endings in this game. With this 100% completion playthrough, we can get 2 of them by doing one first and then backing up the save to do the other. This will get us what I believe are the good and best endings. The bad ending will be for the second playthrough. With the backup save in hand, we can continue. To the surprise of absolutely no one, we find Adam waiting for us after leaving the campsite. If you need to go drop a deuce or something, this is the time, because Adam and Eve talk forever. I will say though, Adam is probably one of the most understandable final bosses I've come across. He doesn't seem crazy, delusional, or mad with power. I mean, he's hardly even a bad guy in my opinion. And personally, I felt that was a breath of fresh air, because usually that's not what you find. Also, if people have a problem with Adam's cardboard vocal performance, I recommend putting it to the Korean dialogue, because at least to me it sounded a lot better. Like, if to me, as an English person who doesn't speak Korean or whatever the name of the language is called, I found that performance to be pretty gripping. Personally, I felt Adam's vocal range was a bit better than the American one, because I've heard the English one, and geez, yeah, it's worse than Male Shepherd from Mass Effect, so I don't blame you for hating it. Also, speaking of Adam and Eve, I swear the devs couldn't be more ham-fisted with this game's overtones if they literally threw a piece of ham at you. After these two are finally done staring into each other's eyes, you are presented with two choices: either join a union with Adam or refuse. I first decided to refuse and fight Adam instead. The fight with him works in two phases, but the first phase is hardly even a fight. But don't be fooled by how much damage you do to him and how he doesn't really seem to fight back too much. That was just a fake out, as he transforms into his true self, which was a little reminiscent of the angel designs from Bayonetta. This phase is the true fight, and what a spectacle it was. The biggest issue I had with this fight is that with all of the white around you, it could be a little hard to see his attacks properly, but it wasn't too bad, all things considered. Just watch out for his one-hit kill move, because he has one too. When I laid the final blow on him, even the ending cinematic was pretty great. I think the idea that these two truly didn't want to fight each other was handled pretty well in this scene. And with Adam saying his final words to us, I got the trophy Natiba Researcher for killing all types of Natiba, and the Return to the Colony trophy for getting the good ending. This ending sees Eve and Lily being greeted by the human manifestation of Mother Sphere, more like Child Sphere if you ask me, and she takes them back to the colony. After watching the ending, I backed up my save to right before I fought Adam to go for the other ending. I choose to join Adam this time, and the two of them do a Dragon Ball fusion dance, okay, not really, and combine into one being. The result is an angelic looking Natiba Eve, and it is a damn shame that we can't get this costume to keep in later playthroughs. Anyways, soon after this happens, the giant mech that Lily was manning springs to life on its own, presumably by Mother Sphere, and starts to attack Eve. This mech serves as the final boss for both this ending and the bad ending, and honestly, this thing is the hardest boss in the game by far. It's like they grabbed one of the mechs in FromSoft's Armored Core and just slapped it in this game. It has melee attacks, ranged attacks, missiles, laser beams, hyper beams, and even its own one-hit kill move to boot. It has literally everything, and it wouldn't be surprising if you ended up dying in this fight more than once. But after doing enough damage to it, a quick cutscene will play out where Lily figures out a way to get out of the mech using the hacking device she got in Eidos 9. I told you it was important that we go there. With Lily safely out of the mech, Eve is able to go all out berserk, and the game lets you go nuts on this thing. You get to spam all the special moves you want. You are completely unhinged in this final stretch. It's literally like you went to Taki mode, but now it never runs out. When the mech's health bar is finally done, Eve unleashes one more killing blow to put the mech out for good. With the mech gone and Lily safe, the two of them make it out of the cave and get greeted by Mother Sphere. All the endings will include Mother Sphere in some way, form, or fashion. Seeing how Eve decided to become literally one with the enemy, she has decided that the operation is over and sends dozens and dozens of airborne squad soldiers to try and kill Eve, which begins this extra ending sequence, and it has hands down become my favorite one of all time. You got no health bar, no UI, no anything. All you got is a full infinite Taki bar and a crazy pissed off Eve, and you are just spamming all your special moves, and you're perfect dodging left and right. And I personally had the chain type exospine, which when you do combo attacks, it kind of flings this electric shock to everyone else around it, and it was just destroying. I was just seeing body parts flying. It was literally like a Drowning Pool album. I haven't felt truly this unstoppable for a while in a game, and it was awesome. And with the fantastic music track playing in the background, it was truly a chef's kiss. After it finally ends, you get some more cinematics, the best ending concludes, and I get the Making New Memories trophy. At this point, the only thing that I had left to do now was to get the bad ending. This required me to play the game again for a second time because there's really no convenient way you can get all three in one playthrough. To get this ending, you have to make sure that you don't have the Lily bar maxed out when proceeding to Spire 4. But honestly, I felt that this was the low point of both the game and the trophy list. Like I said before, to get the Lily meter maxed, you basically have to just play the game, finding data entries, doing side quests, etc. But for this playthrough, you basically have to ignore everything in the game, because doing solely the main story objectives will get that bar upwards to 60% or higher without doing anything else. So to be on the safe side, you want to basically do nothing else the game has to offer, which seems to go against the entire objective of playing a game. I mean, yeah, this is New Game Plus now, and it's not really that big of a deal, but the game also provides you all of these extra things that are now open to you in New Game Plus. You have extra abilities to earn. You have like a whole nother set of costumes to find. You can further increase your weapon. You can further increase how well your tumbler will recharge your health. You can further increase your max HP, and all that stuff requires exploring and doing, side quests and things, doing the game. So it just seems like a poor design choice for going about getting one of the endings. Instead of this arbitrary Lily meter that dictated it, I think it could have been like a series of items that were like sentimental to Lily or something that you had to find in the levels, and if you found them all, then you could unlock Eidos 9. Like just something that would allow me to play most of the game still without skipping over most of the content. Like I hope that the devs choose some other way for ending paths with whatever their next game ends up being. But anyways, I basically had to do a speed run of the game for the second playthrough all the way to the end. And since I didn't max out the Lily bar, we passed over Eidos 9, which kept Lily from getting that hacking device. And this matters during the final battle, where we fight the mech again after merging with Adam. The fight with the mech, at least the first part, or I guess the majority first part of the fight, is largely the same until that cutscene plays out. With Lily not being able to get out of the mech in time, the whole thing just starts to go into shock and starts sending electric volts everywhere. But these shocks end up shocking Lily, and it basically kills her as a result. And having seen this right in front of her eyes, Eve goes absolutely berserk, and we're able to go ham on the mech just like last time, but albeit for a different reason. And after giving the mech the final blow, Eve is able to pull Lily out of the machine, or at half of her at least. Lily gives Eve some pretty somber final words, honestly, and then Eve carried Lily out of the cave for the final ending. We once again get greeted by Child Mother Sphere, and seeing that Eve still chose to side with the enemy, she sends the airborne soldiers to try and take out Eve. Just like with the best ending, we get that power fantasy sequence, but with Lily dead right behind us, it doesn't really hit as hard. But despite that, after the onslaught is over and the final cinematics play out, the final trophy, Cost of Lost Memories, is unlocked, along with the platinum. And as a bonus, I also got repeating protocols for completing New Game Plus, but this is not required for the platinum. Overall, this game's platinum was an enjoyable breeze. Due to not having any difficulty trophies, you can play this game at whatever setting you find most enjoyable, which can really lighten up the experience. A lot of people may not like the grindy, collectible, and combat related trophies, but for someone who grew up on a collectathon, action adventure games, and platformers, this game took me back straight to my youth, and that was great. The story, the story's a bit basic, but at least Adam made for an understandable final boss. The levels themselves were fantastic to play through, but I honestly would rather have had twice as many of these of the linear levels and maybe one big open world one for if they ever do a Stellar Blade 2. The only time I got bored was going for all the fish, naturally, but it really only took me a couple hours tops to get all of them, so it wasn't a terrible slog. For a devs team first crack at a console game, this was a very strong showing, and they provided an enjoyable platinum to boot. This is the platinum I recommend to go out and get, or if it's ever on PlayStation Plus or whatever, you will not have a bad time getting this platinum. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. I was away in England for a couple of weeks last month, so it kind of delayed this video a bit. But I hope you all enjoyed it, and please don't be afraid to put any critiques, questions, game suggestions, or whatever you want in the comments, and I will see you guys on the next one.